Motorsport Advancement Crusade presents Motorsports Unlimited.
Hi, welcome to Motorsports Unlimited, Part 135. I'm Lynn Hewing.
And I'm Angie Kay. If you like variety on Motorsports Unlimited, you are going to enjoy today's show. Right, Lynn?
That's right, Angie. We're going to start today's show with a return visit to Thunderbolts in order to answer some questions about how the huge fiberglass hulls are separated from their molds after curing.
Then we're going to travel to Diversey Harbor on Chicago's lakefront to take a look at a very strange but somehow compelling car called De Chevaux.
After that, it's back to the Lake Bluff to show our audience a sensational and extremely sophisticated pit bike, or miniature road racing motorcycle if you prefer.
Then, as promised last week, we're going to visit Bob Oetringer's toy room, or engine development room if you prefer.
And finally, we'll show you an even stranger streetcar, Eric LaCour and David Hedgewood's menacing Chi-Town Joker.
Let's get started with Bob Oetringer's explanation of how boat hulls are removed from their molds.
All right, we've got another question to ask Bob here, as long as we've got a person that's really into fiberglass. Yes, let me step right in there, Andrea. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. I can't resist it. It's very comfortable standing here.
Okay.
Don't say it. Debbie's watching this, okay?
Not saying nothing.
Something occurred to both myself and the crew that we had out here. We've had some experience with fiberglass work. All right, doing some race car parts and things like that. Nothing really larger than, say, trunk of an automobile, trunk lid of an automobile, okay? In order to get and I want our audience to know that it's a real task sometimes getting the fiberglass pieces out of the molds. As much as you try to wax everything, in fact, you wax it 6-7 times. I'm sure you guys do that?
Yes.
Okay. As much as we do all that, sometimes they can be real, what would be a good word, recalcitrant? Does that work, Chris? Okay. Sometimes they can be really tough to get out. Now, the way we got our parts out was literally to toss the mold on the floor, get it to like pop so we can separate it from there and all that. But I'm going to tell you something. This mold behind us looks like about at least 35 feet long. Am I close?
It's 32 feet long.
Okay, this is 32 feet long, and I am guessing that when you lay the hull up in this thing, and hopefully we've got a cut shot to show the audience if we can't get a good shot with the camera now, I'm guessing that the part that comes out of here, which is essentially the bottom half of the hull, how heavy?
The part weighs around 1,000, 1,500 pounds.
Okay, so we're talking about a part that's over 1,000 pounds, and what does the mold weigh?
The mold weighs about 3,000 pounds.
Okay, so obviously we're not just going to take and toss this thing on the floor to get it to kind of vibrate loose, are we?
No, not at the price of those things.
Yeah, you bet. Now, in fact, give us an idea. What does a mold like this, what does the mold go for?
The hull and the deck mold is worth about 150,000.
Ah, so we're definitely not going to drop these on the floor, right?
No, we're not.
Okay, so, and by the way, Andrea, this is all motorsport stuff is all new to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't know anything about this and haven't really been around things like this?
No.
Now, let me ask you this. Take a look at this thing here now. We're talking about this orange thing and the cage around it. We're talking about all that stuff. Does that look like something that you'd be willing to spend $150,000 on?
No, that may be. This, no.
Oh, you like the finished product, fine. You just don't want the, okay. What's the secret? How do you get this stuff out of the molds? This doesn't look easy.
Well, how we do when the boat is completely finished and the bulkheads and the stringers are all in there and the fuel tanks are in there and the boat is cured about a week and a half, what we do is we hook chain hoists to the bulkheads, which are the wood, they're like sheets of plywood that go from the left to the right side of the boat. That's what a bulkhead.
Okay, let me explain then. What we're saying, if I understand you correctly, is we don't just take it once we've got this shell laid up in here, then you take and put these bulkheads in there and fiberglass those pieces all in also so that you've got something to hook onto?
Yeah, we actually finished like the whole hull completely from fuel tanks to to the limber holes for the water to run through. Everything's finished in there, and then we hook A-frames or the gantries or whatever you'd want to call them up to it, and then we start lifting the boat out of the mold, and it'll lift the mold off the ground a couple inches, and then in about 15-20 minutes it'll just make a big pop and it'll come out and the mold will drop down.
I imagine that 15 or 20 minutes is a period of some anxiety.
Oh yeah, because if it sticks, the whole mold is basically junk.
Yeah, you are talking about big dollars. We're not talking about small race car parts and things like that then. All right, so, and also I was talking to Mike earlier, and he was saying that on some parts, like you've got a deck in there, and the other thing, that you guys actually mold a piece into the fiberglass that's specifically a place to put a hook on to pull the piece out of the mold because it's not going to get bulkheads and things like that, right?
Right, we, in certain areas, I'll glass a tube into the boat, actually lay it up a cardboard tube, and then we wrap a chain through it, and then we lift the boat up from there.
Okay, and I also noticed the mold that you've got over here, it looks almost like a rotisserie piece. It's got a tube sticking out of each end of the thing, and presumably you could put it on jack stands and rotate. Now, is that for getting the piece out, or does that have something to do with laying it up?
That we use the rotisserie method to lay up the V-bottoms, and what we do is we actually build a boat from one side to the other, splitting it down the middle, so we'll do one half one day and then one half the other day.
Okay, folks, I thought you'd find this interesting. This, if you know anything about fiberglass at all, and hopefully through our program you've learned a little bit, and you're going to learn a lot more. This is interesting, how they actually get these pieces out of these molds, and Andrea, I'm sure you'll agree, it's kind of interesting how much a mold costs.
Yeah.
Would you have guessed that?
No.
Okay, folks, anyhow, I thought you'd find this of interest.
$150,000 for a mold. Guys are crazy. Before we go any further, let's meet the other girls that worked on today's show.
Hi, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Jan. I'm Chris.
Thank you, girls. Now, as promised, we present De Chevaux.
It has been said that the French don't really build cars. They build Renaults, Peugeots, Citroens, but they don't really build cars. Sergio, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Okay, first let me introduce you to our audience. Give us your name, please.
Okay, Sergio de Souza.
And where are you from?
I'm from Brazil originally.
Is that right? And how long have you been here?
About 21 years.
Ah, so it's been quite a while.
Sure.
Okay, we have a car here that, and I'm teasing, let me first tell our audience, I'm teasing our audience, the French, in a way, I kind of like that about the French vehicles. They are quite different and quite unique, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
And perhaps most original and most unique among all of the French automobiles has got to be the Citroen 2CV. Would you agree?
I agree. That's why I have it.
That's what I want to ask you. And as a matter of fact, why don't you tell our audience how I happened to meet you?
I was driving on the Eisenhower a couple of months ago, and somebody honked the horn and got off their car and knocked on my window and said, "I want to put your car on the show." Gave my car and said, "Give me a call." Okay, I said, that's what I did, and here we are today, about 2 months later, or something like that.
Right, so I don't really know Sergio, but I certainly spotted the 2CV, and I've been wanting to put one of these on our show for a long time. I've said before on our show to our audience that if I was in a position to have a car collection, one of the cars that I would have to have in that collection would be a 2CV. You just have to. And yet, you're not offended at all if I make the observation that many tongue-in-cheek auto magazines have made over the years, and when I say over the years, I mean for at least 20 years, that this may be the ugliest car in the world.
Oh, I agree with that. That's why I have it.
Yeah, I was going to say, then why do you have it?
It's so ugly that's cute, you know. You like it because it's different, and it doesn't look like anything else that I have ever seen before, you know.
Yeah, in a real sense, you know, Road and Track magazine did an article about the 2CVs. Do you remember the one I'm talking about? There's a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And they had the thing posed with a bunch of ducks and geese walking around.
Right. Yeah, they call that in Europe the ugly duckling, because it's so ugly that people, but it's lovable. That's what they say, you know.
Yeah, I agree completely, but it does have, in addition to I must say, to me it has a very charming appearance. But tell us a little bit about it. After I got to talk to you a little bit, you are quite knowledgeable about mechanical things.
A little bit.
Tell us about the engine.
The engine, it's a 2-cylinder opposed air-cooled 600 cc's. So it's very small. I think horsepower on it, it's rated like 29 horsepower. But it's good enough for the car. It propels the car fast enough for the American conditions most of the time, providing you don't have a strong headwind. That's the only time that you run into problems. Top speed on it, sometimes I get 70, 75 miles an hour.
Depending on the headwind.
Right, depending on the wind, which way the wind is blowing. Yeah.
Okay, now before we go any farther, I want to get the girls out of the car first. If you'll excuse me for just one moment. No, you can stay right where you are, Andrea. Janet, if you'd step out, what are you thinking there?
Oh, it's cute in here. Looks real cute.
Okay, step right on out. Maybe, Janet, before you go any farther, did you notice that this window, and I don't know if we can get a camera shot of this window, do you have any explanation for this?
No, I don't.
Sergio, step over here and maybe you can explain this window.
Okay, that's the only car that has a window that folds instead of rolling up and down. The way to close it, you just release this and slam it, and it's closed. And to open, you push a little button, fold it in half, and that's it.
You know, it's a fascinating mechanism, but one really has to ask the question, why? Why did they do that?
I think the reason is the door is so narrow, there wouldn't have any space for the glass to go up and down.
Ah, well, okay, so there was
I think that's the reason.
Okay, now let me step in front of you and get Christine out of there. And first of all, I want to point out to our audience, this really, you know, maybe not for an automobile, but this really is a lovely and attractive line. Just maybe not for an automobile. Would you agree?
I agree.
Christine, what do you think back here?
You know, this car, when he slammed the door there, this is a solid sounding car for a small car.
Ah, that's the big secret. These are actually pretty nice cars. Come right on out.
Also, is this car new, Sergio?
Wait a minute, let me get the mic over to you.
There is a question on that. It's registered as a 1964, but it was totally rebuilt in 1985 in France, just before I bought it. So it's got a new body, new engine, and everything. So it's one of the reasons I think it's because of the EPA regulations.
Right, let's step over here, Sergio. If you can, just step right over here to the front of the car. I want to give the camera an opportunity. Girls, if you can just kind of line up with the car, that's great. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. I understand that these things are really still being manufactured new, sort of, meaning that they are produced in a way that they're identified maybe as kit cars or something like that because of the inability to meet emission controls. Help me.
That's one of the reasons, yeah. They cannot be legally imported, the new ones, into the United States. So there's a company in France that is building those on older chassis, putting all new parts, and it's coming in with the year of the manufacture of the chassis. They are still being built in Europe on a regular production Citroen line in Portugal, somewhere in Portugal. I think is the last place that they are still building these cars. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, it was either 88 or 87 where they stopped production in France, in Paris, where there was the main plant of Citroen.
Okay, do you recall when these things, when they began to build them?
I think the design is from before the war. But the first production car, if I'm not mistaken, was 1947 or 1948.
Right, my understanding of it was that this was, in a sense, although the political circumstances were different and everything, my understanding was, though, that in a sense, this was sort of the French version, not version, but the French answer to the VW Beetle?
That's correct, yeah. A popular car, I think when they designed the car originally, they said it's supposed to carry 4 people and a bag of potatoes for farmers. That's basically what it's designed for.
And as a matter of fact, this one is actually quite a fancy one. I noticed the interior is actually very elaborate. Now, is that standard or did you put that in?
No, this is a standard model, but it's what they call the deluxe model. It's called the Charleston. Okay, it's a deluxe model.
This is a deluxe 2CV.
That's right, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, how many speeds in the I presume it's a manual transmission?
Yes, a manual transmission, 4-speed. It's 4 on the dash. It's not on the floor or on the column, it's on the dash.
Okay, is this a front drive car or rear drive?
It's a front drive car, yeah.
Okay, we can't do a discussion about a Renault 2CV, I'm sorry, I keep saying Renault, a Citroen 2CV without talking about the suspension.
The suspension of this car, it's unique. Like most of the Citroens have a very unique suspension. On this one, it has a horizontal cylinder where the front wheel on the right side is connected to the rear wheel on the same side by means of a spring in the middle of a cylinder. I don't know exactly, it's hard to explain, it's easier to show somebody. But it's very unique, it's very soft suspension, but it's very stable car. When you first start driving, it seems like it's going to flip over any corner, but it tilts up to a point and then stops and sits there, and you can go as fast as you want.
You kind of like it, don't you?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Okay, I have a further question about it. That we were talking about it when I saw you going down a highway. First of all, I was amazed that it was doing like 50 miles an hour, and the brake lights both worked. I'm serious. I was quite impressed by that. I said, I've got to catch this guy. He's got one that really runs and is actually able to make about 50 miles an hour. If you've got 3 other people, in other words, total of 4 people in the car, normal conditions, do you really think you can do 55 or 60 with it?
Yes, yes. Without a strong headwind, yes, you can do it.
With 29 horsepower?
Yes, yes, you can.
Okay, because I mean that really is let me give you an idea. What kind of gas mileage? Do you have any idea?
The way I drive it, which is pedal to the metal, 99% of the time I get about between 27 and 30 miles per gallon. If you go slower, I got 45 miles per gallon.
Okay, and I like I said, I'm impressed that you do use this thing all the time. Now, when you say pedal to the metal, I want to get back to you in 1 second. I want to talk to you about the formula that they raced in Europe that you were telling me about using this engine and trans. But first, I want to show the girls something because they're standing over here, and you know we've really got to appreciate them today. It is definitely a little chilly down here, Andrea.
Yeah, it's cold.
It really is, Christine.
Bill, could I ask, would it be all right to ask how much a car like this costs?
Do we have any idea, Sergio?
Right now, I don't know for a fact. I think those are being imported under the same conditions that this one was. It's got to be somewhere around $9,000.
Under those conditions of it being sort of a new car.
New car on an older chassis, right. In Europe, they cost somewhere around $4,000 if it's a European model.
Okay, there's a lot of bureaucratic complication. Now, what I'd like you guys to do is to back up a little bit because we want to make sure our audience sees something else. Just everybody back right up. I want to show them the roof, so just keep coming backwards. Okay. Now, you guys should know because obviously, like most girls, does everybody like convertibles?
Oh, yeah.
This is a convertible. Yes. This is a convertible, right?
Sergio, come on over here. Show us. How does it work?
I'm going to open up.
Can it be done easily?
Sure, sure. It's a little complicated, but it can be done.
I mean, you can tell that Sergio loves this car, and he's got a good sense of humor about it.
That's exactly. I love the car too. I'm not kidding when I said. Well, you've heard me say this before. Yeah.
You can either open halfway into the middle like that, which is like a moonroof. Yeah.
Okay. This is like a Lincoln Continental moonroof. Then is that correct?
Right. That's correct. Yeah.
But it's not electric.
No, it's not. It's all manual. Yeah. Or you can open all the way to the back, which then what you have to do is you have to roll it like a sardine can, and I'll show you from the other side.
Okay, girls, Andrea, what do you think of this car?
I like it. I love convertibles anyway.
This is not exactly like the kind of convertible.
No, I know. It's nice. I like it.
Yeah, but anyone can have a regular convertible.
Right.
That's right. This one is pretty special, isn't it, Janet?
I think this is really a cute car.
Yeah, you know, you come all the way from Indiana. Is this the kind of thing you'd want to commute from Indiana with?
I don't think so. But it is.
Well, you know, Sergio, it's you know what it reminds me of a little bit like a British sports car.
Yeah, it's unique.
Yeah, it's not only unique; it's one of those things that I mean, you really have to want it to have the top down in order to put it down. It's not exactly pushing the button, is it?
No, it's not. Yeah, you have to go to some effort to get it down and up again. But it's one of the things of the car. It's the car that doesn't have anything that's superfluous. Everything in this car, it's needed. If you remove one little part, it won't work anymore. It doesn't have anything extra.
Okay, step back over here, Christine. I know Andrea, you had a question?
Is it easy to get parts for this here?
Good question. Parts.
In the West Coast and in Louisiana, there are places where I order parts. It's usually, if I need something in a hurry, it's about a day away. If I have to have it and I pay air freight. Otherwise, it's about a week away.
So it's still possible there's no great problems in getting parts?
No, I haven't had any problems whatsoever. No.
Okay, Christine, did you say?
I was, is the car a low maintenance car, so really availability of parts isn't real important?
I want to hear Sergio lie through his teeth on this.
I won't lie.
Is this a low maintenance car?
Yes, it is.
Come on! wait a minute. I got to tell a little story here. Sergio's enthusiasm for this stuff, if this is possible, perhaps exceeds my own.
It does.
Yes, he just took a motorcycle trip, okay? And he started on a trip now to what, to like Mexico, something like that?
Yes.
Okay, to Mexico, you're not going to believe this, he starts out with a Moto Guzzi, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and naturally we blow the engine up on the Moto Guzzi, so on the way back we do what kind of a bike?
A Ducati.
So naturally we blow the Ducati up on the way back. Sergio.
You know which one I bought it? a Cajiva.
He likes adventure.
Well, he's buying the right vehicles for adventures, no doubt about it. You do recognize you're going to take a trip. I'm honestly and truly that you really have to do a Honda or Kawasaki or a Yamaha or something, right?
Never consider that.
Never even considered. No. Okay, how do we explain this to our audience? The enjoyment and the romance of because you knew going in when you take a motorcycle trip or when you have something like this that it's not, in all likelihood, it's not going to be maintenance free. You're going to have to fool with it, and we know that going in, right?
Right. Yeah. That's true.
Okay, why do you do it then?
I like to be not to have everything that everybody else has. So if everybody has like a Honda motorcycle, then I don't wanna. So that's the same thing with this car. Nobody has it, so that's why I have it.
Let me throw one more thing on there, because I think that's partially correct, but I think another part of it has to do with there is like the British motor cars, there is a certain inescapable charm to they create a mood when you, like a Triumph motorcycle or something like that, very much like the people with the Harleys. I don't think any of them make the claims that it's the most maintenance free and all that, but there's something about it that it's indefinable, and I think there's some of that compels you, no?
Sure. Oh yes. Yeah. You like something when you see it, not necessarily because it's the most beautiful or the best. It's something because there's something unique about it that makes you like it. That's how I am anyway.
Okay, now tell me about the formula that they had in Europe using these engine and trans?
Yeah, they had they used to race cars exactly like these, where they remove the fenders and the top and something like that. And they used to have races in mostly France, but I'm sure in Portugal also, because I've seen some pictures. And the name of some of the racers were from Portugal, for Portuguese descendants. And then they had another one that I think they called Formula Blue, which is a similar car like a Formula V in the United States, but with the same engine and transmission that they have on the Dechevaux.
Mounted in the rear?
Mounted in the rear, that's correct.
Okay, you just pronounced the word. I want you to say it again.
Dechevaux.
Which means?
2 horses, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The translation, it's 2 horses. Yeah.
And how do you say it again?
Dechevaux.
Yes.
The 2 horses on the back of this thing is.
Is that what that is?
Sticker. I can't figure out that. Right. That right there, the sticker.
We've got to get a tight shot of that thing. Sergio, is there anything else that you can tell us about this that you find particularly interesting, unique, or compelling? I mean, I love it, obviously.
I like the whole car, and it's a very reliable car. The engine, I have about 50,000 miles on it, and I have never had any problems with the engine at all. And it's always driving it as fast as it can go. So I consider it very reliable.
No, it's an absolutely great car, and seriously, we've been doing the show 3.5 years now, and I've kept my eye out for one of these. If I could say it, I would say Deja Vu, but I say 2CV.
That's fine.
Okay. Anyhow, thanks so much for bringing the car and showing it to our audience. By the way, I should tell folks that we're at Diversity Harbor, and girls, it's a nice, warm, balmy day, Diversity Harbor. Huh?
Absolutely freezing out here.
I think, what's the date today?
Windy City, okay?
Yeah, it's what's the date today?
Today's September 22nd? No, 26th.
September 26th. So I think we're getting to the end of these locations.
Right, Bill.
All the girls agree? We want to do studio stuff now? Okay. Anyhow, folks, I thought you'd really enjoy this car. I think they're great. And Sergio's got some other stuff. Well, we might do some more stuff with Sergio. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed it.
What an adorable car.
Chris, Jan, and Andrea said it was so cute in an awkward sort of way that you couldn't help but like it.
Speaking of cute, let's go back to Lake Bluff and look at a motorcycle that Bill couldn't walk past.
I can't resist this. The more we do Motorsports Unlimited, the more that I realize how much people that do motorsports of any kind like all the stuff. First of all, let me introduce you. You're Brian
Seiler.
Brian Seiler.
Yes.
Okay, Brian, this, our audience should know, is something that we call a pit bike. I guess this is Bob, and you have to help me, Oetringer?
Oetringer.
Oetringer, boy, that's a hard one, although Jones is hard for me. But Bob Oetringer's pit bike to run around the pits. And this is an example of how sophisticated some of this stuff has gotten. Would you agree this is like a miniature road racer?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and you're doing something to this bike for him.
Yes, I am.
Okay, we're going to show what it is. Angie, can you get off there for a moment? We've got to show the audience something. And step right over here behind Christine. Yes, go right ahead and pull the glass off of the thing. Angie, what do you think? Could you have ridden this one?
I don't know. Turn it on, we'll see.
No, this one has a little bit too pipey of a motor and all that, but we're going to find the right one for you to do because I want to teach you about clutches and everything with the bike. Okay, this is what I really want to show our audience, and if we can come in on a tight camera shot on this, what are we looking at, Brian?
This is a nitrous oxide system.
All right, let me explain to our audience how crazy this is. First of all, these things are supposed to be, little pit bikes are supposed to be literally things that we just kind of throw away. And one thing led to another while guys were at road racing tracks and everybody had a pit bike to run and get parts and what have you and go to the riders meeting and all that sort of thing. And it was just a matter of time before guys started racing each other to the riders meeting and modifying the pit bikes. And it wasn't but a few years after that the factories picked up on it and they decided to make these really high performance miniature road racers as pit bikes. But apparently that's not good enough. We got to add nitrous oxide to the thing, and my guess is the next thing's going to be supercharger.
Next thing's going to be turbocharged engine.
What do you think, Brian? Turbocharger next?
Maybe.
Okay, I just thought the audience would get a kick out of seeing this, and again, it's another example of those of us that like motorsports. I think we all like all of this stuff.
That's your idea of a pit bike.
Say what?
That's your idea of a pit bike.
Well, maybe so, but I was thinking the same chassis and everything with the
engine.
No, with the Honda 6 engine, the inline 6 engine.
A little bit big for the bike.
Brian, what do you think?
A little bit big.
Oh no, it'd be like an aluminum fence out here. It'd be great. I would just love it.
How about rocket fueled?
Ah, there we go. Anyhow, folks, I thought you'd get a kick out of this bike, and I don't know what it explains about the motorsport community, but it's us.
What it says, Bill, is that guys are crazy.
Before we leave Lake Bluff, let's take a look at what Bob O'Tringer calls his toy room.
Yes, this is another example of how crazy guys are.
I could not walk past this room without stopping and doing at least a little piece. Bob, where are we?
We're in the engine assembly room for the race boat.
Okay, but this could be just as easily for sprint cars or for drag racing or for Can-Am cars for that matter.
Yes, it could.
Do you understand why I would find this so compelling?
Because of the fuel injection unit on top of the motor and the big black Chevys.
All the neat stuff.
Mm-hmm. This is the little toy room.
This is the toy room, and again, what we try to do on Motorsports Unlimited is we really want the general public to understand us. Andrea, as I said, you're very new with us. Can you understand why Bob and myself would get excited over this stuff? Yeah, be honest.
No, I'd rather just see it inside the car and running and going.
Okay, you don't see how just looking at these people, in fact, we like to fondle these parts. Christine, am I correct?
Yes, Bill, you are.
Angie, does that make sense to you?
We like to think we're more attractive to look at than that.
Let's just say this. These are everything in this room. I would say we could call, and I'm going to make everybody. We could call boy toys. Would you agree?
Yeah, exactly.
Everything in this room. Okay. A couple things I want to do real quick because we just happen to have the opportunity. Angie has been with us now for a long time, for over a year now, and really has asked a lot of provocative questions about things. I'm interested in the things that she picks up on and all that. In fact, we're going to do a couple things with Angie about teaching her certain things. You happen to have, this is a big block Chevy, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Angie, in fact, maybe you could step in front of Chris. Chris, if you could step back just a little bit. Angie, when we say an engine block, the thing I can show you here is that the block is essentially the building block of the motor, the basic building block of the motor when you're putting an engine together. Mm-hmm. There are other ways to do it, and I don't want to confuse you with it. For example, motorcycles have separate crankcases and cylinder blocks and all that, but 99% of American automobiles, the engines are constructed starting with a basic block. This one happens to be a big block Chevy. There's also a small block Chevy. The difference being exactly as it's described. This larger block Chevy is longer, if we put a ruler on it, than a small block Chevy. Mm-hmm. It's wider, if we put a ruler on it. And what it gives you, if we're looking at these cylinders, and I don't know, can we get a camera shot of the cylinders at all? Is that a doable thing, even partially? I'm going to try to move this a little bit so that our audience can see it a little bit better. And does that help at all, guys? Okay. All of the power in an engine is made in these cylinders. That's where all the power is created. And you know, I've been wanting to do a little bit of piece about how engines worked. I've had dozens of calls from people saying, hey, you ought to do something. And there's a way I want to do it. I want to go to the very basics of an engine as to what an engine does. And what I want to do is I want to take a firecracker, and I want to toss it on the ground and see it pop. And I want to explain that that's what folks like us, that's what we deal with. That's a release of energy. The problem is when you take a firecracker and toss it on the ground and it releases its energy, we can't really do very much with that. I mean, it released its energy, so what? We didn't make anything, we didn't run a TV set or anything with it, it just released its energy. Now let's take the same firecracker and put a tin can over it. Set the firecracker off. What do you think happens?
You get combustion inside the cylinders or something.
Now, I want you to tell me what happens when we put a firecracker under a can.
Oh, it bangs around a lot and makes noise.
No, that's not it. Andrea?
Can will pop off the ground.
That's exactly correct. So what we have done is we've taken that release of energy and made it do work. In effect, that's the way the space program works. That's the way we launch spacecraft and everything. We take into a release of energy, we contain it on top, and it drives the can in the air. But how about if we don't let the can go up in the air? How about if we hold on to the can? What do you think happens to that energy then?
It's stuck inside the can and it'll just blow.
Well, that's correct. In other words, it creates force inside of the can. So what we do essentially in cylinders on an engine is we essentially have that can, that tin can, and we cover it over the top, and we let that explosion occur in there. But obviously, this is a big heavy block. It's not going to go anywhere. And what it does is it drives the piston down. And then, I don't want to try to make the whole explanation now, but that's what makes an engine run, is it drives in through a lever, it turns a crankshaft, and the crankshaft is...
You move up and down and then...
They don't move up and down. The piston is the movable wall. When we create the explosion in here, that piston is forced down by the force of the explosion. And it's connected through a lever that makes a lever called a connecting rod that makes the crankshaft turn. And when the turning crankshaft is where we get the power from. That's what's important is that we were turning the crankshaft. And in the case of this, now obviously you understand we don't throw a firecracker in there. That would be real hard to do that over and over again real quickly. That'd be kind of impractical. But the release of energy is the same. We just do it in a different way. We inhale a mixture of fuel and air and ignite it and create the same explosion if we tossed a firecracker in there. This one happens to have 8 cylinders. It's a V8, and I want to give you that explanation. We'll close it up in here then. Perhaps you can see it from this shot that if I drew a line for the way the piston would move, it would be like this towards this, which is the crankshaft. This one comes down this way towards this, which is the crankshaft, and this configuration is a V looked at from the front. And this is an 8-cylinder motor, thus a V8. If we lopped off 2 of these cylinders, cut off the front of the engine or the back of the engine, doesn't make any difference, what kind of an engine would we have then?
A 4-cylinder.
Now think it again. It's a V8. We chop off the back 2 cylinders of the front 2. What are we left with?
2. Oh, a 6-cylinder.
What kind of 6?
A V6.
That's correct, because it's it's arranged in a V configuration, and there are other kinds. You can take and line the 6 cylinders up in a row, all of them same. That's called an inline 6. You can have an opposed 6-cylinder, which instead of a V shape here, they're laid down on their sides, and they go. There's almost like a boxer. That's an opposed 6-cylinder engine. Bob, is any of this making any sense? Is that just what we want to get into, right?
Oh, that's the basics.
Yeah. And again, I want to make sure that I explain to the audience, I've really run past a lot of this stuff. I don't want to say, yeah, we do an explosion, and the purists would say, well, Bill, it's not really an explosion, it's a burning process. No, yeah, we're not going to get into that's not what we're trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is just give folks an idea of how an engine, what it looks like, and what it runs. This is the basic building block of engines. After we have this, and I don't know if we can get a camera shot here, if we look at this and we see that that's this section of the engine right here. Angie, is that visible to you? Can you slide up here?
From the back here, right?
Exactly correct. It's the same from the back. Can you see that, Angie, that this flat surface here and here is that flat surface that has those head gaskets on it? Mm-hmm. Can you see that? And then what we have here and here are the cylinder heads. Is that obvious to you?
Yeah.
Okay. You've always asked a question, and we can't, maybe Bob's going to surprise me, but I'm sure he's not. You've always asked the question, you wanted to know what a Hemi was, right?
Right.
Okay. This is not a Hemi. This is a wedge head engine. But if we were to take, and we don't have them here, so we can't show them to you, but this is what would be different, would be these heads.
So they're hexagonal shaped, right? Or something like that?
No, hemispherical, one half of a sphere. In other words, when this engine has its heads on, if you just turn back here, when it has its heads on, it has a wedge-shaped combustion chamber. A true hemispherical shape, and there aren't any really true hemispherical, not in automobile engines, but it would be like a half a circle, exactly, and then you'd have a big valve coming in from this side and a big valve coming in from this side, so the heads get very, very large and expensive to make. That's what a Hemi engine is, and there is a power advantage, although maybe Bob's going to cringe because I got a feeling he's a Chevy guy all the way.
Very much.
You don't like those 426 Hemis?
I do like them, but they're not really for the type of motors that I use. They're not really practical. Very expensive to run.
Yeah, but I got to think for those Aries Hemis. What do you think?
They're good for drag boats.
You really don't like them for offshore boats?
No, they can't take the cooling in the heads, and that stuff can't handle the endurance.
I have a feeling we're looking at that with a jaundiced eye from an old. It seemed to me you said earlier in the interview you had a '67 Chevy Camaro that you ran in the nines with. Yeah, he's just a Chevy guy, so we're not gonna listen to any of that. But take my word for it, the hemispherical engine is an advantage. In any event, did you have a question, Jan?
Yes, why are they saying Hemi? Is that for...
It is the shape of the inside of the head design. It's very important. We haven't gotten into this, but the way you make power in these engines, and I don't want to go through the whole explanation now because, again, I don't have my tin cans that I'd like to do and everything.
You're running out of tape.
And I'm running out of tape. I've got to tie this thing up. But it's very important for the breathing of the engine. The amount of power you can make in these engines has to do with the size of the cylinders, of course, but it also has to do with how many times you can fill it and empty it in a given period of time. And when you get into that, you're talking about how much air you can take in and how much air you can get rid of. That has to do with the breathing of the heads, the engine's ability to breathe, and that's all done through the heads. And the hemispherical head is a superior breathing head, and some would also suggest that it's a superior burning front for the, I don't want to get into all that. It's going to get, Bob, I see you grimacing. Are you? You don't agree?
No.
You're getting too...
You like the wedge head and the turbulence and all that?
Yes.
Okay, we could argue, but we're not going to do it now. Folks, anyway, again, I thought you'd find this interesting that something like this exists in basically a boat building place, right?
Yes.
Okay. I thought you'd enjoy this.
Actually, that was a pretty interesting explanation of how engines work. All I know is that V8s give you more power but use more gas than a 6.
I thought so too, but Bill says it's not always true and that cylinder configuration or number doesn't have anything to do with power output or fuel consumption. And in an upcoming show, he's going to try to explain it in simple terms.
Well, I know that the car we're going to show you next is a V8 and uses lots of gas.
It sure is and does. And while Bill will concede it's stretching the truth to include it in a show looking at strange street stuff, he feels it qualifies because of the number of tickets it has attracted.
Let's meet a couple of Chicago guys and find out about the Chi-Town Joker.
Well, Andrea, you are really becoming quite a trooper on Motorsports Unlimited. What's the question you just asked?
Can I get in it?
You want to get in it?
Or can I take it home?
Oh, well, first let's get you in the thing, and then we'll see if you want to take it home. Let me introduce, we're going to need some help on this, so first let me introduce the fellows that work with this car. Eric and Dave, come on in here. You are Eric, give me the rest of the name.
LaCour.
LaCour, I wouldn't have guessed. Eric LaCour, welcome to Motorsports Unlimited, and you are David?
Hedgewood.
David Hedgewood, welcome to Motorsports Unlimited. Now, you guys say it's not hard to get in this car, right?
No.
Okay, Andrea, you start out right here.
I'm not helping her. You guys help her.
Just through the top of the...
Just hop through the top, right through the window.
He says hop through the top, Andrea.
I'm hopping. There we go.
Now, what do you think?
I want it.
You want it?
Yes.
Christine, I know that you're always attracted when you hear these engines rumbling and everything. What did you think of this one?
I love the sound of it, but I still don't want to drive it.
That's because you don't have a driver's license and don't know how to drive.
Even so.
Okay, tell you what, guys, what I'd like to do is let's us step around to the other side here, and we'll talk a little bit about your car. And girls, Janet, you're going to have to pretend it's not cold.
I'm trying.
Okay, you're trying. First of all, I should tell our audience how, let me just, guys, come up a little tighter on the car? Okay. Let me tell our audience how we happened to come about this. A fellow named Junior at the transmission shop in Stone Park, right? He owned he owned this car, and you wanted it, right?
Exactly.
And how did he happen to get provoked into selling it?
Well, we kind of did a little horse trading.
Well, I understand that this car, its most prominent feature, and I should tell our audience, it's got a lot of prominent features like a supercharged small block Chevrolet, but perhaps the best way to describe this car is it's a ticket magnet.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I understand he took it to cruisers
Yes.
and had an experience.
Yeah, he got about 4 or 5 tickets, I think.
Yeah, so then it was time to sell it.
Yeah, then time to sell it, yeah.
You're not afraid of the tickets?
No, I'm not.
Okay, you know, the first time I saw this car, it was that we did a thing at Stratz, you know, the drive-in Stratz in Franklin Park?
Uh-huh.
Stratz, I'm sorry, and we spent a half an hour trying to help and I didn't learn a thing. But in any event, he brought it over for the burnout contest.
Exactly.
Boy, what a burnout car.
Yeah, it really lights him up.
Why'd you buy it?
One of the best features about the car is we do a lot of track dragging. I own KED Incorporated, me and Dave, and we're I'm lost for words here.
That's okay. It happens to me at every show.
Yeah, we're centrally located in Chicago, and we do chassis work. We do frame and chassis work, and we were intrigued by the chassis work and also by the turbo clutch, which Junior put together, and he did a very fine job on it. And you don't see many dragsters like this with a turbo clutch.
Okay, my question is, what are you guys going to do with it? You guys going to drag race it or street it, or what's your plan?
Well, we're going to drag race it. We're going to maybe drag race for the rest of the season. Then we're going to put some lights on it and do a little cruising with it next year.
Right, because, you know, Junior had in mind to do some cruising with it.
Exactly, yeah.
It will be a ticket magnet.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
David, your interest the same as Eric's? You're attracted to the technical part of the car?
Sure, most definitely. That we're into drag racing, and we also own the Firebird. And basically, we were astonishedly looked for the motor and the way it's set up. I mean, it was just great. So we just had to get it.
Okay, you talk particularly, and let me get my cord here tangled a little bit. You talk particularly about, and Janet, don't walk too far out of our picture. If we get the girls out of the shots, nobody is going to watch this show. Am I right, Eric?
Yeah, that's right.
You talk particularly about the turbo clutch. Explain that. What is it?
The turbo clutch is what most drivers use is a reverse action turbo 400, which is a standard General Motors transmission. But this transmission is a reverse action turbo 400 with a standard shift clutch in it. Instead of a torque converter, it uses a clutch to launch the car, which means that we can drop the car at any RPM we want and not lose on the big end with a torque converter.
You're going to hate this, Eric. How old are you?
I'm 24.
David, how old are you?
The same, 24.
You know there's nothing new about that. We did clutch flights back in the 60s.
Did you?
Put a clutch in front of a torque flight trans, the Chrysler torque flight trans. You didn't know it?
No, I didn't know that. I wasn't.
Nothing new under the sun, except little things that we find out along the way. Have you run the car yet?
Yes, we have.
And what have you turned with it?
In the single digits. We don't want to say exactly what time because we do a lot of bracket racing and racing for money.
Nobody's listening. These girls never drag race. Nobody's going to tell. What did it?
It runs in 880s.
Oh, you run that quick with it. Now, what class does it run?
It runs in super. Come on, help me out here. Help me out.
Here's the reason for the question. We've done a couple of shows with folks that do bracket cars, and we've had the DeSalvo racing team on a couple times, and they do Spartacus and Son of Spartacus, which is a T-Roadster. You run in that class?
Yes, yes.
That's a tough class to run in. Very fast, very quick cars.
Yes, they are.
So give me an idea. You want to drag race the thing the rest of the year, then put some lights on it and enjoy it as a street car. Right. Do you have any thoughts along the lines of building something else, or do you want to develop this into something or keep it just as it is?
I'm going to keep it just as it is, maybe put just a front end on it and a couple lights on it, cruise it, and we got a 65 Mustang that we chassied out, and we should have that going by next year.
Okay, David, let me get you in a conversation. Who drives? Do you drive or does Eric drive?
We both. Normally I drive. We also drag race bikes, and I ride the bike 90% of the time. And Eric would be in the car.
You're sort of the Jay Gleason of the two of you for drag bike racing?
Exactly. I mean, like we line the bike up against the car, and I mean it's really fun just to see who could get down there the fastest.
Chris, you know what kind of question I got to ask, right? We got two guys that both drive. What's my question? I got to ask who's quicker.
Well, I always say I'm the quickest. He can tell you.
That's the spirit, by the way.
He can vouch for that at the last track turning that we had out at Union Grove about 2 weeks ago. Matter of fact, the 16th, we went out there, and he can tell you his time, and he can tell you my timing. I'll let him be the judge.
Eric, is that going to be enough proof for you?
I can't recall anything.
Yes, Christine.
Janet was quite surprised when I told her that the car actually has a parachute in the back of it. She didn't know what was in the back. Why don't you explain a little about the chute?
Okay, guys, stay right there. Let's walk around the back. Janet, go right ahead. You're not cold, are you?
Yes.
It is freezing, folks. The girls are terrific sports. They really are. Okay, two things back here. Guys, can you step down here? First of all, what's this, David?
That's a parachute bag, and what's inside is a parachute. And
What do you use it for?
we use it to stop the car.
Do you understand that, Janet? In other words, when they hit the traps at what kind of speed do you run?
We run it like 180 miles an hour to 190.
All right, so when they hit the traps at 180, 190 miles an hour in this little thing, they pull a lever in there and it pops the parachute, and that probably knocks off 100 miles an hour right now?
Instantly.
Okay, now what do you suppose these things are back here? And if we don't have a camera shot of it now, we'll get a camera shot of it afterwards. What do you think that is?
I don't know what that is. I'm not sure.
Okay, you just wait. No, Chris. I know you know. Our audience knows you know. What are they?
Wheelie bars?
That's right. That's absolutely correct. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you leave on the bars, or you have them for emergency use?
We leave on the bars exactly every time we leave from the line because the front wheels are airborne.
Okay, so you do lean on the bars for part of your launch strategy.
Exactly. If not, we'll just tumble straight backwards.
Okay, guys, this is a great car. Oh, a couple other things. Who can talk about the engine? Eric, he's nodding to you. He's willing to defer to you on the engine. We're down to our last couple of minutes. I want you to tell me about the engine. We know it's a supercharged small block, but give us a little more information. Rods, crank, pistons.
It's got Carrillo rods in it. Hank the Crank did the crankshaft in it. It's got two 650 top squirter carburetors on the supercharger. It's a 4-bolt main, of course, because it's it's got a supercharger on it. It's got 208 valves in it. The heads have been polished and ported. That's about it. Crane did the Crane roller cam in it, and there's roller rockers, Crane roller rockers in it.
What kind of RPM you run on it?
We leave it around 9.5, 10, sometimes more than that. Depending.
Run it that hot?
Yeah. Yeah, we run. Yeah, small block superchargers are made for high RPMs.
Okay, great. And do you know what kind of boost pressure you run?
We got 3 different sets of pulleys. Some of them are I can't recall.
16, and the other one I believe was the 11.
11.
We're running 11 on there as of now, and we can go up to 16.
Do you guys follow any other kinds of racing at all, or just strictly drag racing?
Drag racing.
Okay, do you know they run the Formula 1 cars, ran a turbocharged formula for a long. You know what Formula 1 cars are? The Formula 1 Grand Prix cars? Mm-hmm. And they ran a turbocharged formula for many years. Do you know what the boost pressure they ended up running on before they banned the turbos?
How much was it?
Over 100 pounds. Over 100 pounds. They were making 1,400 horsepower out of 90 cubic inches. Can you believe it? Now we're going to do one more thing. Andrea, can we get you out of there now?
Oh.
We got to show you one more thing.
How to get Andrea out.
Okay, why don't you take my microphone? Right? Okay, was it fun in there?
Yeah, I want it.
Janet, come down here. In our continuing effort to teach the folks over the shoulder of the girls, step Janet right in here. Just step right in there like that. Andrea, come down here. Round to the front. Okay, this is our little test, folks, and the camera guy is really getting mad at me, so we've got to finish this thing up. Here's our little test. Anybody can sing out. What is this?
Supercharger.
What is it?
Supercharger.
I said supercharger.
She said it. I didn't.
Now, you're all wrong. This is only an air scoop. Okay. What's underneath the air scoop?
Carburetors.
Carburetors?
Okay, very good. We've got 2 4-barrel carburetors. What's this? Wait a minute, Andrea. What's this?
Black or housing?
Huh?
Housing?
I know what it is, Bill.
Wait a minute.
That's the engine block.
Chris?
I don't know.
I don't believe you don't know. This is a GMC supercharger.
Okay, I know. Superchargers on every car.
Now, we went through the explanation last week. I hope we showed that on the program already. What is this down here? Right down here. You guys remember from the boats? Step forward, Andrea.
Down in there, wasn't the black?
There you go. It's the block.
V or whatever you were talking about.
We knew we were going to be tested.
Now wait just a minute. Wait just a minute. I want you to see that if you think about it, here's the crankshaft down here, and here's the head for this side and the head for that side, and the cylinders are arranged in a V off of here, and it's 4 on each side, and it's a V8 engine, and that's the basic building block down there, right?
Got it. You can see it.
I bet you guys didn't think they knew all this stuff, right?
No, I didn't believe it.
Okay, folks, that's it. We got to wrap it up before the camera guy gets absolutely nuts with me here. I knew you'd enjoy this car. I had to show it to you. Eric, David, thanks for showing it to our audience. We appreciate it, and good luck in the future.
Andrea Oswald is a good sport and has rapidly become a part of our Motorsports Unlimited family.
She's 21 today, and we want to wish her a happy birthday.
Motorsports Unlimited is produced by Bill Wildt, president of the Motorsport Advancement Crusade.
Okay, girls, back in the car, get warm.
Bye, guys.
A special thank you to Audition News for helping us locate Chicago area talent to lighten and brighten our program.
You never know what to expect on each Motorsports Unlimited show, but you can always bet it's something exciting. Until next time, I'm Angie Kay. Thanks for watching. This program made possible in part by support from Auto Magic Body Shop located in Franklin Park.
Folks, anyhow, we thought you'd find this of interest. Stay puffed up, Andrew. I shouldn't do it to you.
Cheer that.
I know, I shouldn't have done it.
Watching Motorsports Unlimited each week is a new and interesting way to learn about the motorsport community. Until next week, I'm Andrea Oswald. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for taking the time to watch our program today. Until next week, I'm Lynn Hewing. Thank you for watching.
Until next week, I'm Janet Mailer. Thank you for watching.
We hope you enjoy the variety of motorsport people and motorsport events that we bring you each week. Until next time, I'm Chris Schutz. Thank you for watching.
The Motorsport Advancement Crusade is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the preservation and enhancement of motorsport. We are entirely funded by voluntary contribution. For more information, you can write Motorsport, or you can write the whole thing if you'd like, Motorsport Advancement Crusade, but mail us to us just fine, addressed Motorsport, P.O. Box 66242, Chicago, Illinois 60666, or just call it 1-312-478-4224. We enjoy hearing from our audience, and we encourage you to call or write.
Until next week, I'm Pam Pollock. Thank you for watching.